Welcome.
Happy New Year, Happy New Year, Happy New Year. We back. We is back.
Where's my camera? Which one is me?
Here we go. 2024 already.
Is this what's happened? What's on the screen?
Yeah.
Let me get it on my thing.
Yes.
Okay, we live. What y'all been doing? How have everybody been? Holiday hiatus. We was on a holiday hiatus, but we back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, indeed. Happy New Year. Happy prosperous year. And then he just did what I just told you not to do. Well, we gonna address that later. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Once again, we're taking comments and questions. If anybody has a comment or question, you can leave it below, and we will try to check it and address it. I'm checking Facebook. He's on YouTube, so we are taking live comments and questions. So whoever has something, comment. Let us know.
Well, at the end of the day, we apologize for not letting you all know that we were going to go live today. So what we're doing.
It was touch and go.
It was touch and go. Absolutely.
Life been lifing. Life been lifing.
Yeah.
But the holidays, everybody's schedule's a little crazy when you got entrepreneurs and people doing things.
Absolutely.
You gotta get people together when they can get together. But we're
Absolutely.
gonna work on a consistent schedule for y'all for 2024. Because we got some important topics to talk about. We got some important things to cover.
Absolutely.
And we want y'all to stay up on game.
That's the name of the game. Staying up on game. Absolutely.
Y'all got some special topics in mind that y'all are ready to dive into? First of all, what was y'all talking about with the Cowboys? What happened? I've seen a lot of people posting things about them. Is this too sensitive for you?
No, I'm good. I usually here's my process. We lose. I shut down social media for a couple of days. I'll take in some info, like some feedback on YouTube about the Cowboys, and then I'm usually good about 4.
I ain't gonna lie.
It takes you 4 days to recover.
I was gonna send you some memes, but I didn't know.
It's cool, man. They come. Man, let me tell you, I had students sending me memes. I got a friend who's an Eagles fan that was sending me probably 5 pages of memes. My mom even got in on it and started sending them. My sister did.
Kick you while you down.
Yeah, but they understand, man. I know it's
what happened. They out of the running.
Oh yeah, once you win the playoffs, it's single game elimination.
Model.
So once you lose this time, it's over. You're done. You just go rebuild for next year. Yeah, that's kind of what happened.
Okay, well,
that's the beauty of the playoffs. Yeah, your weaknesses definitely get exposed in the playoffs. So if you got an undersized defense, then it will show in the playoffs.
Well, I'm glad you survived and recovered.
Yeah. Hey, 12-win season.
Next year, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's always next year.
Yeah.
I just don't help me understand why is it that we as fans we can't be fans.
You can, bro.
I had my Cowboys coat on, and people were like,
okay.
"You still repping your team?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a fan. I can't want my team to do well. It's like I can't say I got a good team."
You and the other 30,000 or 30,000 plus 2 people.
But you Atlanta fan, you want your team to do well, right? If you're a
But
Falcons,
I understand. I'm
Colts
not in
fan,
cognitive
you want
dissonance.
So let's
of
talk
the
about
Falcons.
maintaining appropriate boundaries.
What do you mean? I got appropriate boundaries with my Cowboys. I don't go. I've not even been to a game yet. Do I get mad? Yeah.
Have you broken things? Yeah.
A couple of years ago. It's been a couple of years.
So, about those boundaries. How about those boundaries?
I mean, I've broken things over U of L games. I mean, that's just what I do, or what I did.
So you're saying it's more of an anger issue, probably?
More probably. Because if I'm very invested in something
this
and I
is the
want us to win.
vulnerability of therapists. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let's get to the heart of it.
Yeah, man. Passion. I want my team to win, but hey, we lose. I'm upset, and then it's like, let's try again next year. That's the beauty of it.
All-Star weekend coming up. Y'all going to All-Star?
No, I don't really like. But I like the All-Star weekend that is coming up because now I know the NBA's going to get serious. Because they usually, I think they kind of, because of the large volume games, it's like they kind of take the beginning of the season off. And then after that NBA All-Star break, when people start getting for slots into the playoffs, they'll actually start competing with each other.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I can dig it.
But we at the end of January, and it's been so much has been going on. Not even outside of just playoffs, but the Cat Williams interview.
Okay.
Man, let's get into it, boy. Yes.
Have you had a chance to look at it?
Yeah.
But did you watch the whole 2 hours and 45 minutes?
I didn't watch the whole thing, but I was
gotta
definitely concerned that he might be a little bipolar.
Who?
It was giving me manic episode.
Well, what about it?
Well, for one, delusions of grandeur, persecution, of just if I couldn't decide whether he was giving me narcissist or he was giving me elevated mood, but I'm thinking that he keeps on saying that people keep saying he's on drugs, but he's not on drugs. And I was like, if he was truly bipolar or hypomanic, say if he got into certain mood states where he was super elevated, super animated, real aggressive, real in your face, people could mistake that for drugs when really it's just the swings of what, cause even when he's talking, which not saying that anything that everything he was saying was not true, but just like when you saying stuff like, I read 3,000 books a year and all of that, like, you believe that, but did you?
So
you were reading 3 and 4 full entire books a day at 8 years old. Like, no, you weren't.
Yeah.
You were not. So
he said he runs a 40 in like 4:45. He actually videotaped himself like running out.
Exactly. It was giving me manic episode. Cause my client said that at first, and I had only seen the clips that was being posted online. So I'm like, that I don't think so. I think that's just part of him. He probably was drinking and he's real animated. But then once I listened to the actual interview and saw the other things that were not included in those little short clips, I was like, he's definitely got an elevated mood. I don't know what it's due
from
to.
a clinical perspective.
Yeah, I don't know what it's
see
due
that.
to, but
Because I feel like if he had the level of narcissism and interpersonal skills will show it, and a lot of people have come out and supported him in defense of him, saying like, hey, Cat's a solid dude, he's a good dude. And really nobody's come out and said anything he said was a lie. That's the other part.
Yeah, that's true.
Even the people that he attacked came out. Nobody denied it. They gave their opinion, but nobody denied anything he said.
Luda made a rap song.
Yeah,
that thing was hit too.
Luda,
but he didn't say he was lying.
Right.
He didn't say he was lying.
Yeah,
but it was hidden though. Luda, that thing was hidden. ATL.
But it's just like, it's like it was so much to unpack. Like
it was.
That it was like he slipped gems in there that nobody said anything about Harvey Weinstein, offering to give him head. Mm-hmm. And like nobody has said anything about that, or the scene where originally Money Mike was supposed to get raped by
Cube did address that.
Yeah,
Ice Cube addressed that.
Yeah, I agree with them on that. I mean, just trying to disperse the image of the black male image. But
it was like Ricky Smiley was willing to do that to get the role, like, and that was what
alleged
was.
Well, because what Ice Cube was saying was that it was never gonna be a scene. It was gonna be like they go into the bathroom and it's implied.
And you knew,
yeah. So I guess what he's saying is the reason why somebody would be okay with it is because they're not filming a scene where you're actually being violated. They're just implying it based on.
But why would that? But they also made a good point. Like, why does that even need to? Why would that be necessary?
Right.
For the plot?
Like you said, rape is not funny no matter who it happens to. Or
exactly.
It's just not funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. He definitely made some valid points. I'm just wondering, just like and even Shannon Sharp was talking about how he was on, like, from the moment that he got there. He said we really should have started rolling when he walked in the door because he was already just dropping gems the whole time. Just by the time we got the cameras rolling, he just didn't stop. And I'm like, But I could see what, like I said, if he is hypomanic or he is bipolar and he gets into like a manic state or anything that is elevating his mood, people could mistake that for drug use. And he consistently maintains that he's not on drugs. But think if you've seen a person who's bipolar or you've seen a person who's manic and they're in an elevated state, it can look like they're on drugs and they're really not. It's just that they're flying high on
their highs are
chemical
highs,
imbalance.
Their lows are lows. Yeah.
Exactly.
Just out there.
Just because he just flood of words, and just saying whatever, and like I said, feeling persecuted, feeling grand, feeling all of the things, right?
And stuff,
I'm like,
did y'all get to see the interview with Wanda Sykes that he did when he?
I did. I seen it. I seen it when it first came out.
He roasted her pretty tough.
Not Wanda Sykes, Wanda Smith.
Wanda Smith.
Yeah.
Wanda Smith. Yep.
He had said before, like, the reason why he went in so hard was because she had told him we were going to talk about your Emmy, and that's it. And he said, as soon as I sat down, you start talking about me going to jail, my kids, mental health. You brought up all this stuff. So he was like, oh, you trying to catch me? I'm not going to let you do that to me. And he goes in.
Yeah.
SNL did a skit on it too. You know,
Yeah,
they had
it was
to.
good.
They
It
were
was
funny.
good.
So I tell you 3 things.
She did a great
She
cake.
was like, I'm 5'3". Number 2, I never tell lies. And number 3, I'm 6'3". It was like, what?
But
Somebody
also,
said he took notes over all the interviews and he had a lot on his chest to get off, so he
Yeah.
didn't
he
want to
did. But you know what? Cat Williams has been consistent
Shout out to Tim.
in really just bringing that to the forefront in all his comedy ever since the early 2000s. I remember when he was talking about Steve Harvey and all that other stuff.
But a lot of people come out and say Steve Harvey's a jerk, and that that it's been always speculated he was kind of a jerk, and you've seen him; he's not really that funny, and that was always an issue there
Nah,
with
he
him
was
and
never really that funny.
and Bernie Sanders.
But I
Not
feel
about
like
Bernie
Steve
Sanders.
Harvey
Bernie
is
Mac.
in his
Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders.
Bernie
I
Mac.
feel like Steve has always been in his hosting bag. Like that's his lane. You're like funny enough to be a good host, but not to be a standalone comedian. Like just
You're inclusive
like you're a good
funny.
host.
You're
Yeah.
inclusive funny, but you're not.
You
like,
bringing the other funny people. You ushering them out.
Right,
You just set the stage for them to come up, but you not getting ready to tear up a stage or like not bring down a club.
Yeah, you're not finna sell
your
out
own.
no or
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Okay. New year, new you. New year, new you.
Has anybody been doing anything different new this year? What have you been
Yeah,
doing,
man.
man?
Shoot, trying to make it happen, man. You know what I'm saying? I really want to make sure that we be able to provide people with the content, different levels of content. We're gonna broaden our horizon this year. 2024 is gonna be a good year. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna see us on location, some places, some faces. You know what I'm saying? What's your prediction for the new year for what we're gonna do?
In terms of the podcast,
Yeah, man.
man, I think, man, in terms of like you said, going to different locations, I'm cool with that. But then touching on just various topics, man, I would want us to like hit them like whenever they're out there, right? And we just touch on them, and then we're talking about them then, as opposed to it being a month or two later. But I think, man, just having various topics just to kind of go off the dome with, man, is what I see.
Absolutely. What about you, Aaron?
I just want to see a like regular program schedule so people can like kind of set their clock by what we're doing. Like they want to know what we're gonna be talking about. They're tuning in. They're anticipating the next show. So we want to definitely get a consistent schedule for you all so that it can be something that you can tune into regularly on Sunday evenings or whatever to see what we're talking about. What's the topics of the day?
Absolutely. Because 2023 was our inaugural year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now, shoot, we didn't shake off the bugs, and now it's time to get to work, man. We're gonna be in your city, probably.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Homecoming season. We're gonna really make homecoming season work this year.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So we got a whole lot of things, man. We want to be able to bring you this content that's gonna be informative yet funny. You know what I'm saying? Informational yet witty. You know what I'm saying? With a little bit of sprinkle of this and a little sprinkle of that. Yo, absolutely. What did we leave off last year? What was one thing that we accomplished individually last year?
In terms of the podcast, it's professionally.
Just period in life. You know what I'm saying? Because we all about elevation in life goals and being able to set your course and chart your path the way you wanted to do it.
Sure.
And, we only lead by example because, that's the reason why we're clinicians, right? So how we going to tell somebody else to do something we ain't doing it, right? Yeah. So what's one accomplishment that we did for 2023 that we put in the book that we proud of?
Start my practice.
Exactly. Getting the LLC going.
Man, give me some. Black excellence.
For sure.
Black
For
excellence.
sure. For sure.
Yo.
Definitely getting the podcast off the ground.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hiring my first staff. Also, I'm start hiring my second staff this week.
Period.
Yeah.
Hire people.
Hire what?
Hiring.
Yes.
Now hiring.
Change makers. You know what I'm saying? And that's the beautiful thing, man. I think one of the things that makes it such a great thing is we're normalizing mental health in a space that is not necessarily normalized. But I do have a problem, though.
Oh, Lord.
I do have a problem.
We got a problem, y'all. What's the problem?
This is our topic. How do we feel about people self-diagnosing themselves off of TikTok?
Ooh, TikTok diagnosis.
So how's
okay,
it go?
well, let's get into
somebody
it.
educate me on that because I'm not. What's been going on?
Well, there's a lot of TikTok therapists. So real, like licensed therapists get on TikTok and talk about mental health in general. So they're on there talking about attachment styles or talking about trauma or da 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 da. So information gets out there. Then you also have a subset of people who are in therapy, who are actively going to see a therapist, and they're talking about what they're learning from their therapist and their experiences that they've had. Put that all together, you get a lot of content out there talking about mental health, and since COVID, mental health is moved up to the priority list from the taboo area to front and center of now. It's like a Stanley Cup. Oh, you don't have a therapist? Oh, okay, so you're not enlightened that you need to talk to a therapist. So it's a lot of information out there. So now people have started diagnosing themselves based on the clips
Yes.
or the information
Yes.
that they're getting. And
Yes.
sometimes it is like eye-opening for a person who's not been exposed to therapy or has not been exposed to some of these concepts and terms, but it could also be very dangerous.
Dangerous, yes.
That's what I
Absolutely.
gotta say.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's one of the things I hate. I think a lot of times because it is like Queen Aaron had said, it is such a new phenomenon for a lot of people that they see it, they can relate to it, they be like, oh, that's me. You what? Can't sleep, can't eat, so and so and so and so. That's me. So what happens is, a lot of times you'll find some people use it as a crutch, or self-diagnosing themselves. You know what I'm saying? Haven't spoke to a professional, haven't really got evaluated. They're just saying it on TikTok, and so next thing you know, they go out here and do something, and they be like, well, I'm bipolar.
Yeah.
But you never seen nobody to verify whether that is that, and you don't know.
Because it's a whole set of criteria, right?
Right.
People pick and choose what criteria fits them, and then they make that diagnosis, right? There's like five to six different criteria for bipolar, but you may pick one criteria that you heard somebody speak of on TikTok and say, okay, I have to have that, right? But that's not the case, right? I would encourage anybody, man, if you feel like you're struggling with some type of diagnosis, get tested. I mean, it's the same way if you went to your physical doctor or your medical doctor and you were experiencing heart problems, you will go have that tested and looked at. So if you're experiencing certain mental anguishes, then go have that looked at. Go have somebody test that for you to find out what's going on.
Okay, because what would you say, in your opinion, is the danger of self-diagnosing based on common themes or like key phrases that are kind of out there? A lot of people talk about narcissists. People talk about trauma or attachment styles. What would you say is the danger of people diagnosing themselves from social media?
Well,
Either one of y'all. Both of y'all can answer.
All right. So one of the things is, especially when we're talking about adolescents.
Adolescents.
Yeah, they're looking at TikTok.
Teens, yeah.
And there's somebody that says, well, I'm on medication. And I take X, Y, and Z for medication. For my, just for an example, for anxiety, I take so and so and so and so, right? And so an adolescent who can't necessarily process that or understand that from a much more contextual standpoint, maybe like, well, hell, I may need to go get some medicine myself.
Yeah.
I know Cindy got medicine because she's diagnosed with the same thing I think I'm diagnosed with. So maybe I need to start taking her medication as well. So Cindy, can I get about 2 of your pills?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think a lot of times when people are looking to self-diagnose, it's almost like they're looking for a way to excuse some of their toxic behavior that they do is inappropriate, because they feel like if they can diagnose it, it somehow excuses it and justifies it.
It's an explanation.
Yeah.
I'm doing this because of this.
Which, even if that was the case, right, that wouldn't make it still okay for you to do, right? It's still there's a reason why, So that would be my biggest thing. And also, man, you look at teachers in schools; they do the same thing. I had a phone call the other day from a guy who was looking to get his daughter tested for ADHD, and I already knew. I said, man, let me guess, your daughter's turning up in class. The school wants her to be on medication. And he said, yep. I said, okay. Well, I sent them like 4 or 5 different testing sites to go to, and was like, with her being 8 years old, you don't want to have her on medication for ADHD just because a teacher has a hard time keeping that kid under control or setting still. And so what they're really asking you to do is give us medicine to help this kid set still. Whether it's, and when you look at a kid that's restless, man, it could be anything. It could be from, lack of sleep. It could be ADHD. It could be anxiety.
Yeah.
It could be a trauma response, right?
Yeah.
There's so much going on there. But I think sometimes when we make those diagnoses, it makes it much easier, I think, to have those conversations with the doctor. Because the doctor, if you tell the doctor the person has ADHD to get medicine for it, then they'll give it. But if somebody's oppositional defiant, or if there are other diagnoses that are out there, then the doctor may want you to get further tested. But you say ADHD, the doctors usually have no trouble with just giving that medicine and prescribing it.
And just from my experience, my son, he did end up being diagnosed with ADHD, but from a very young age, the school was trying to pressure me and pretty much force me to put him on medication from 4 or 5 years old, which I was already aware that he may need it just because of my own background in mental health. But I'm like, there should be my decision and my family's decision based on what we feel like he needs. And at that age, I didn't feel like it was appropriate because we were moving. We had moved from my hometown back to Louisville, and there were some changes that happened. So I wanted that stuff to get settled first. And so what they did was they kept getting him in trouble at school to where he would
making him a disciplinary
problem.
So
making it a problem.
Every little
thing. And then they would, when he got to school the next day, they would ask him, what happened when you told your mom what happened? So they were waiting for him to say that he got punished in some kind of way. And one day I don't know what happened. He ended up getting a spanking or something for something. And so they sent CPS to the house. They called CPS and said that he was being abused and he was a trouble in class, and they had all these little write-ups. But basically, they were trying to force my hand. I'm a single parent. I'm a black woman. They felt like I didn't know anything about mental health because they're assuming that I'm just a young black single mother. So they're trying to force me into putting my child on medication by sending CPS, by writing up all these disciplinary things. And I mean,
blowing your phone up every time.
Absolutely.
Dr. Umar Johnson talked about that. Now he polarized. He do his thing, but he's a school psychologist, and I used to really look at his contributions to that. Even when I was in grad school, I was very adamant against medication of adolescents.
Yeah, extremely young children.
Yeah, extremely
4
young
years
children.
old. Like, he's hyper. Okay, he's 4.
But what it is these teachers, a lot of teachers, and no knock to the teachers who out there who
overworked,
really
underpaid.
But there are some teachers who are in some type of urban, or who are in urban environments, who are not necessarily culturally competent.
Exactly.
On how to educate, certain populations of children.
Exactly.
And let's be real too. A lot of those teachers, man, you just brought up the fact that they overworked. I mean, that spread thin with the staffing. You got one teacher trying to take care of a class of 20. Their objective is going to be just to get the kids to sit down, sit still.
Yeah.
So
I got it.
To them, it's like, if I can just get them to sit down and sit still, right? So I can teach everybody else. Then I'll be fine. But there's not an amount of medicine out there that's going to make a kid just sit still. Unless you're over medicating them. Like,
there you go. Like little zombies.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's one of the things I've always been an advocate against. I always try to encourage parents, to find alternative ways to address situations like that, because that has a profound physiological impact of the brain chemistry when you start introducing medications at a very young age.
Exactly. And they're just thinking, okay, I just want this kid to sit down and shut up because I got 30 kids in here, I got this and that going on, and those are real concerns and real issues that have to be addressed within our public school system. But at the same time, forcing parents' hand to where they feel like they have no choice but to put their child on a strong psychological medication without wanting to is a little bit far.
Yeah, it is.
Then at that point, it's like if you're a police officer and you're scared of every black person, then you can't work in a black neighborhood because you're scared of every black person. You're not qualified to do that work. If you are a young educator and it's difficult for you to understand communities who are at risk or who are in crisis, or children who may have to deal with multiple socioeconomic things that make their learning situation a struggle because they weren't getting enough sleep or because they had a long commute to school. My son used to have to ride the bus for 50 minutes to get to school every morning. So think about at 4 or 5 years old, and not only that, he had to ride the bus get on another bus in another compound, and then another 35 or 40 minutes. That was a lot. That's a lot. So
Yeah.
it's not just somebody's hyper. What if they've been sitting on a bus for 50 minutes to an hour every morning and every afternoon? Like, there's so many different layers to it that.
Right.
So ensure parents, if you're ever approached by somebody in the schools, definitely get them tested. They'll say, well, your primary care physician can. No. And the reason why I say that is because there's a lot of steps that go in with giving an official diagnosis by a psychologist. So there's going to be observation sheets they'll give the parents to fill out. There'll be forms they'll give the teachers to fill out. Then they'll meet with the kid individually. It's a lot more in depth than you just sharing some of your symptoms with a doctor and then they're making that diagnosis and giving you that medicine. You can also look into 504 plans, which allow you to get additional support for your son or your daughter, man, if they are having problems in school. So there's a lot of other routes you can take, but the most important thing is don't let yourself get intimidated by the school or the folks at the school to make you feel like that the only way they can teach them is if they're medicated.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have a question online.
Okay.
How do you handle when you have a client who wants to adjust your action plans according to what they feel they want from advice that they saw on TikTok or social media?
This must be a clinician. It's a clinician.
Heck
Yeah, because that's very specific. So, hey, that's cool.
So your client's been watching TikTok, and now they want you to change your treatment plan or your actions based on what they have learned from social
TikTok.
media.
Hey, I hate that.
How do you,
I ain't gonna lie,
how
I
do
hate
you
that.
handle that?
So here's the thing, as a clinician. Okay, all right. So yeah, as a clinician, first of all, it's a reason why a person come to you for help, because if they had the answers, then they wouldn't have came to you for help again. You have to talk about and establish what boundaries look like, right? And so, coming from a helping situation, in order for me to help you, you must help yourself. You must be your own hero, and that's why I tell my clients. So, in order to be your own hero, I encourage you to do actual research. And when we say research, I mean actual investment in things that are factual and have validity, right? And so it's just like if somebody who doesn't know you come up to you and say, hey, I think you should buy a house over in Nulu, right? But this person's homeless, not knocking at the homeless, but are you going to truly...
Unhoused.
Right, unhoused. Okay, thank you. The unhoused. How much validity would you give that information that's being presented to you, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's kind of how I do what I do. What about you?
I think as a clinician, man, because you got to be very careful, because we especially as therapists and in social work, we meet the client where they're at. And so I think what I would do is look at that as an opportunity just to have a conversation with the client in terms of, okay, well, what did we see on TikTok that gave us the impression that we have this diagnosis or that this warrants a change in your treatment plan, right? And then based on that information, they may have a valid point, or it may be that they need some additional psychoeducation on what the diagnosis is and then what those steps look like before you make that decision. But again, you just got to be very careful, because if you go in and if you don't validate what they're going through or what they're experiencing, and having that combo, then you run the risk of losing them. Because that, I've dealt with that a lot of times with folks who've gotten therapy. They'll say, I feel like my therapist wasn't listening to me. I have suggestions, I had things I wanted to work on, and they didn't want to follow through. I mean, it's the same kind of question if you're working with a client and let's say you have a diagnosis of depression, but they're real adamant that they're ADHD, right? Are you going to fight with them about the diagnosis, or do you meet them where they're right and say, okay, let's take this journey together from your lens of depression or ADHD, and then we can see the difference between ADHD and depression. So I think as a clinician, that you want to have that conversation with some psychoeducation in there, and then just being honest with yourself, because it may be a part of your bias, like, who was this person to tell me to change my treatment plan? They don't know more than me, so we got to be careful about that too. And so just being honest with yourself and what they said valid, and if it's so, meet them where they're at.
Okay, and speaking of depression, I've heard a lot of conversation and discourse around seasonal depression, around like when it's getting cold outside, when the weather is like this, about feeling, trapped in the house, or, it getting dark early. How do y'all, what is your approach on dealing with seasonal depression, or if you have people that feel like they might be struggling with that, what are some tips? Like, what is y'all's take on that?
Routine. I think setting up a routine, taking the opportunity to get out the house when you can, right? Because there's a vitamin D sufficiency when there's not when there's not as much sun out, and and then when it's colder outside, you're less likely to want to go outside. That's why a lot of times when I work with patients or clients who are dealing with depression, a lot of times they have a vitamin D deficiency, and the doctor prescribes them a vitamin D medicine, multivitamin.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think having a routine and getting some type of physical exercise, man, is really important. Even just going for a walk, just going outside just to get some fresh air, and the routines.
Definitely, we have a PCP. There's a thing called a light box. A lot of patients, or a lot of clients that I have, they use light boxes because like
what is
said,
that?
So it's an artificial sunlight.
Okay.
So what it does is it gives you the immolation of vitamin or sun.
Mm-hmm.
So it helps your circadian rhythm inside, because when it gets like dark real early, our circadian rhythm is kind of thrown off. So with the light box, it helps you get that vitamin D. It's a vitamin D supplement. And so with that, a lot of my clients, they truly benefit from that during this time right here.
And I always tell people to listen to your body and what it's telling you about how you feel and where you are. Just like there are seasons in nature, like that affects everything around. The same way in the dead of winter, there's a certain time that you're going to plant, certain time you're going to harvest, certain time for different stuff. If it is the dead of winter and you want to stay at home, you're feeling like you are nesting, or you want to just clean things and have some soup and sit around the house, then part of that could be your seasonal reset. Okay, so part of that is just, okay, in this season of time, I need to store up my energy. I need to spend some time resting. I need to prepare my mind for the year ahead. I need to spend some time hibernating or recouping from the holidays or from the stress of the year before. It's not always that you are depressed in how you're feeling. If you're used to doing a lot of activities when it's warm out, or you're used to having a lot of people over and now you don't feel like doing that, a lot of people would consider that like depression, or maybe it's something wrong with me. But also you have to think about how you are impacted by the seasons and how that affects you. So the same way that when it starts getting dark early and it starts being colder outside and things are moving a little slower, it's okay for you to slow down as well. It's okay because some people are on a consistent thing all year long. They are putting out the same amount of energy. Some people, so those would be like marathoners. And a marathon person doesn't train like a sprint person. So some people, when it's warm out, they pop out, they're on top of their game, they're social, they're doing whatever. So they will be sprinters, okay? So they're putting out a lot of energy for a short amount of time, and then they're coming back in to reset and store up their energy and hibernate and, get their house in order. There's nothing wrong with either one. The only problem is when you try to squeeze yourself into a pattern that is going against your own nature of your body, and your body's saying, I need to recharge. I need to spend some time resting. I want to stay in the bed. After the few years that we have had, it's not unreasonable for you to feel like, I don't want to be around a lot of people. It's been information overload. It's been sensory overload. So give yourself grace to spend a couple of weeks or months at home where you're not engaging with a lot of people, or you're not out doing a lot of things, because your body, your mental health might need that. You might need some time alone to recharge, to get your battery stores up, to be able to get your energy level going. And so not necessarily accepting that as depression, but accepting it as a seasonal time, the same way that the earth moves in seasons. Humans respond to that. Plants respond to that. It's a mistake to think that you can keep operating the same way in every season of time without any adjustment. So in the summer, you're putting your patio furniture out, you're barbecuing. You might not be barbecuing in the dead of winter. You're not gonna say, "Oh, I'm depressed because I ain't barbecued in 2 months." No, this is not the season.
I'm depressed because I ain't barbecued too much.
That could make you depressed, but you don't have to just generally assume you are because you're not feeling like going out. You might need that. Listen to your body. If it's telling you, I need rest, I need time alone, take the rest. Take the time alone. You don't have to be out. If you're not feeling it, if you're not a winter person, if you're a tropical person who end up in a wintertime situation, you might need some time to recoup, recharge. It's okay. Take that time and listen to your body, listen to your heart, your mind, and figure out what's going on instead of just putting these labels on you. People, I got seasonal depression, or I got da da da. You may, but you may not. You might just be in hibernation. Yeah. What's wrong with that?
Yeah. Facts.
I mean, emotions, that's a part of the human experience. We all experience sadness, we experience happiness, we experience anger. Mm-hmm. But it's just what you do with that, right? When you're in those moments that make it, an issue or not. And I would say the same thing, even if you bring up the winter time, the winter depression. But I've had clients come to me and say, "Hey, I'm a student, and then I have my summers off, and I experience seasonal depression then because my routine has been disrupted. I'm no longer in school right now and doing my intern. I'm back home with my parents, and I'm just waiting for the next 3 months for school to begin. And so I start to feel depressed off that."
I'm glad you mentioned that because school is back in, and we're professors, right? So as professors, one of the things like I deal with advisement at the college that I teach at, and so there, what would you say would be a good way to approach this next semester, if you will, from a mental health standpoint, in regards to balance?
Balancing all the different just responsibilities.
Well, some are about to graduate. Some students about to graduate. Some students. What I found is that with all of us, our freshman year, if you remember it, we probably don't remember it. You know what I'm saying? So when we start moving towards transition, best of time, right? Best of times. Never forget it. Well, I may forget some parts, but But the thing is, so the stress of being able to transition from when you was a senior in college to now you're finna hit the world, because the world is a lot different than it was then when we hit the world, right? Mm-hmm. And so one thing we all know is that Sallie Mae gonna want their money, right? So the stress of trying
You're never gonna get it. Sorry, it came up in my spirit. I didn't mean to say that.
What did you say? What you say? Say it again.
I don't know
why.
Say it again. Not this time. Man, I don't know what made me say that. Seems like somebody say Sallie Mae, I'd be like, no, you're never gonna get it.
Well, hey,
not getting this out.
There's 3 things that's for sure in life: death, taxes, and Sallie Mae. Because you can't charge it off your credit. But anyway, so with that, you got a lot of people who are about to transition into the big grown-up world, if you will.
Don't do it. It's a scam. It's my advice.
Hey,
it's a scam. Adulthood is a scam. Can we talk about how adulthood is a scam? That's what I'm telling. That's why I can't be y'all both teaching classes that I want to, but how I'm gonna tell the students adulthood is a scam? Don't do it. Don't grow up. Stay with your parents. You know why they crazy? But listen. Earth is not for us. It's expiring. I don't know what to tell y'all. Get out while you can.
That's the reason why we need to talk about this now. That the stress of the transition about.
Because don't do it. Don't do it.
You ain't got no other choice.
So what they supposed to do? Just stay in college forever?
Right.
Keep taking classes. Get another major. I don't know what to do.
8th year senior.
Just keep doing it. Become a doctor. I don't know what to say. Don't grow up. It's a scam. Never land. I don't know what to tell y'all.
Well.
Okay, and that's not the right thing to say. I know it's not. So that's why I don't say nothing.
I think, if you're somebody, man, and you're starting college, and let's say you're graduating high school, and you're starting college for the first time, understand, man, in college, degrees are given to people who put in the work. So it's not really about how much you know. It's about how much you're willing to show up to class and participate in the discussions and ask questions and doing your work and keeping it up to date and getting it turned in on time. That alone, I've seen, and I've done it before, where I work with students where it's like, you know what, their work may not be the best, but they come in and they give their all. They come to class, they read, they ask questions, they keep the class interesting. So I'm going to be more willing to work with that person as opposed to a student who misses every class and then waits the week before the semester's over to tell me,
you have to make it work.
I don't think I'm going to pass this class. And it's like, yeah, you're not, because you missed 75%
I don't think so
either. So, that would be something that I would
yeah,
because one thing I feel like, and what I've seen a lot of, I think people get really intimidated. And so, and it becomes anxietal, and we know when you're anxietal, man, you start to avoid stuff, and then you avoid doing those assignments, and you keep putting them off, and then here it is, you're procrastinating. Now you have 3 or 4 assignments due like on the same day, right? And so I would definitely like having a routine, having a schedule, and just staying on top of the small things, because if you in college, if you don't stay on top of the small things, then towards the end of the semester, then those things become big, and it's too late at that point. But never underestimate, man, just the power of just being engaged and being involved in your class, man. Teachers remember that. Professors remember that.
I remember that. Yeah. I freaking remember that. Also, or if you organize yourself, your life would be so much easier. Buy a calendar. Buy a planner.
Yeah.
Buy a planner. If you buy a planner and you sit down and you write down everything that you need to do day by day, a 30-day calendar, I guarantee you that your life would be so much simpler.
That's what I was going to say.
Free game.
That's what I was going to say. I actually am getting ready to do a vision board class with the Home of the Innocents, some of their teens, and it's just important to map out what you want to accomplish and what are your goals for the year. And people go even further to break it down by quarters of the year. So first, 4 quarters in the year, so you break it up into 3-month increments, and it gives you some short-term goals, some long-term goals for the whole year, and then you might do a 5-year. But just thinking about what you want to accomplish and being able to, one, flesh it out through writing it down, because that's going to make a big difference in putting action to it, because it's not just an idea anymore. When you start writing the things down, then it becomes something that, is this attainable? Can I do this? What are the steps? So if I'm saying that I want to, graduate this year, I'm going to be putting in a certain amount of applications, or I'm going to be trying to move out of my parents' house, or I'm going to be trying to buy a home, or blah, blah, blah. Think about what you want to do. Then you can start to think, okay, well, if this is my goal, what are the steps to achieve that goal? And it seems kind of, I don't know, like maybe sometimes lame or a little bit idealistic, but if you have not ever tried to sit down and write out your goals and visions, it is something that will change how you approach things. Once you are looking at, this is my list of things that I want to accomplish, and I know that there are steps to accomplish each of these things, then it takes your excuses away as to why I'm not
holding yourself accountable.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely.
So that would be what I would tell them. You need to, especially, you really want to do it at the end of the previous year, but it's never too late. You can start at any point of time on writing out your goals and what you want to accomplish for the next 3 months, for this quarter of the year, for the entire year, for the next 5 years, and thinking about breaking it up into, digestible parts, so that you can say my quarter goal, my year goal, my 5-year goal, and then being able to put action to those goals and plans so that they become reality.
Yeah, absolutely. Good points. Good nuggets. Good.
Okay, so we have another question on Facebook. It says, can you address the transition from child to adult that's on meds for ADHD? Many people say that they were on meds as a child, but they're struggling as an adult, not really knowing how to make that transition or continue their treatment. If they're struggling with adult ADD, or maybe they were not diagnosed as a child, and now they're like, okay, I'm realizing that I do have this. So how do you guys transition from child to adult, or how do you deal with adult ADHD?
I mean, you deal with it the same way, he will go to a doctor. Because if you feel like you have ADHD, because keep in mind, man, ADHD is considered like a learning disability. There's an actual cognitive deficit that's going on mentally. So, that would be the same. I think they fall in some of the same category as if being having intellectual or developmental disability. So if you feel like that you really have a diagnosis of ADHD as an adult, then I would encourage you to talk to your primary care physician, get tested, because I know a lot of times, especially in adulthood, anxiety and ADHD oftentimes goes hand in hand. So it may be that you may be experiencing a little bit of both, or it could be what you think you're experiencing as ADHD has actually been anxiety. But you want to tease that out. I see now that they're doing more in terms of medication. They're not prescribing more of like the controlled substances anymore, especially with kids. And I'm even seeing it now with adults. They're doing like guanfacine, which has I think it originally was prescribed for high blood pressure, but now they see that it has some components to treat ADHD. So that's a good thing. But I would certainly encourage, especially if you're an adult, get tested, talk to somebody, get that diagnosis cleared up first before you start exploring the idea of taking medication. Because as you get older, let's say you have, if it's not ADHD and you have anxiety, taking a medicine like a stimulant can actually make your anxiety worse. So you'll become more restless, and it'll mess with your concentration even more.
Okay, so tell the ways that anxiety as an adult could be confused as ADHD or vice versa. How those two things could get mixed up. Like, what are the overlaps?
The restlessness. So if you feel like you can't sit still, right?
Okay.
That can be ADHD, but it can be anxiety too.
It could be both.
What else? Not being able to concentrate. Those are two of the biggest things I've heard people say.
Yeah.
Have a hard time sitting still, and I can't concentrate. It can be anxiety, and it can also be ADHD.
Okay.
What else? I don't think sleep.
Sometimes forgetfulness,
Yeah,
or like not being able to multitask, like losing those tasks that you need to do. 'Cause sometimes with ADHD, you kind of gotta give them one thing at a time. But also, if you're super anxious, you could become overwhelmed by having a lot of tasks. So sometimes feeling overwhelmed or getting lost in different tasks, or being disoriented with stuff like that can also be either one, because sometimes the anxiety can make it to where this feels too big for me, so now I'm just kind of paralyzed. And it could be the same thing with ADHD, like it's too many things for me to remember, so that can be either one too.
Yeah. And those are, and I'm glad you brought that up. Those are usually the three things that I've noticed that are often overlapping with ADHD and anxiety, even as children. But as an adult, right, it's much easier for you to be able to process those things and maybe articulate your experiences and mood a lot better than, let's say, a 7 or 8 year old. And so they're kind of stuck at the mercy of the school, the teachers, and the family or the parents to be able to speak on that for them. And if they're not very well trained in it, then it's like the blind leading the blind, so to speak.
And I didn't really think about it, but I'm sure that many children are also being misdiagnosed with ADHD.
Absolutely.
And they are dealing with anxiety and sometimes trauma.
Yeah.
So sometimes you might I've talked to a young person and said, well, have you experienced any trauma? And they're like, no, everything, I don't think so. They're saying maybe I haven't been sexually abused, or I haven't been homeless or something. But then they will start talking about how their cousin was shot and they, in front of them or something. And so then you're like, wait a minute, because maybe you're not viewing it as trauma, but you could, in fact, have been traumatized by something that you are not aware of. And so sometimes teachers are saying that kids have ADHD, but really they're dealing with anxiety and sometimes PTSD or trauma, and it's making them be restless or hyper or unable to sit down or unable to concentrate because their mind is elsewhere, or because they are carrying the burdens of too much as a child.
And when we think of trauma, I think a lot of times people tend to think of the most extreme cases of trauma, but trauma can be being in a really bad car wreck. Trauma can be seeing your mom and dad duke it out in front of you, or seeing somebody jump on your mother. That can be trauma. Trauma can be watching your father get handcuffed and the police kicking down the door and coming and arresting your dad and taking him to prison or taking him to jail. Those things can be trauma. But those are things that are sometimes normalized in society that we don't see as trauma. We tend to think of the worst case, like almost death experiences, but it doesn't have to be that to be trauma. That's why they have now with the ACE tool where you can take that and it tells you exactly based on your traumas, like kind of where you're level at in terms of your experiences in trauma. So,
absolutely.
And I always tell people that how you can determine it is just based on the events that have happened to you, but the long-term lasting effects of those events. So for some people, a car wreck could be traumatizing. For others, it was just like, it was close, and they move on. Some people have difficulty getting in a car, driving a car, riding in a car since that moment. So for one person, one event might be traumatic, and for another person, it might not be anything. It's how you're processing the event, what are the long-term effects of that event, and how you deal with it from there on. That kind of determines. So it's kind of a broad definition, but you can't just pinpoint these things are the traumatic things and these things are not, because it's really how the person interprets it and how long lasting the effects are of that event on the person.
And, and just the FYI, for anxiety and for depression, there are actually self assessments that you can take. The general anxiety disorder, the GAD assessment, and then the PQ or PHQ assesses for depression. It's the exact same one that they use to self-report depression. I think even schizophrenia. But those are things that withstood the time.
Test of time. Yeah.
And they've been shown to be culturally competent. So if you think you are experiencing that, then I typically, when I'm working with a client, I have them fill those two forms out beforehand, just to give me an idea of what we're dealing with. And it's pretty straightforward questions. I think the most they have on each one is like 9 to 10 questions. But they're really good, accurate assessment of if you're experiencing some anxiety or depression. And that may help you rule out, whatever it is that you're experiencing. And if you think you got ADHD, then you can focus more on that.
Since we're all culturally competent clinicians, I want to take the time to tell the people what we specialize in and how to find us. So.
What?
Yeah.
You just gonna spring that out?
Yeah, cause we out here.
We advertising.
We advertising for the simple fact. We're dropping these gems. These gems is being dropped. We the culturally competent clinicians of color.
Oh, the CCC.
The Urban Therapist Connection. That's the reason why we connected. We in Louisville, Kentucky, and we all are providers. We have a specialization. Like, who do you specialize with?
Well, mine is more so in wraparound service. That's more my specialty. I work with children, but I've also worked with adults. But my specialty is going to be providing individual therapy, case management, and community support services. But I do provide services to children and adults family sessions, to folks who may not want the case management or who want the community support associate. But yeah.
Heck yeah.
My target group is women like me. Women of color, women who are upwardly mobile. Of course, I also talk to teens. I talk to kids or men, and a lot of couples. But I do a lot of relationship talking, a lot of self-esteem building or encouragement on, like, say, if you are moving forward in your career, but you're stalling in one area or another. So having all of your areas of your life to line up. So it's like women empowerment, it's self-improvement, it's beauty, it's mental health, it's all of the things that the inside out, like the total package of being who you want to be, the highest, best version of yourself. But especially black women, because, that's my group. That's my people.
All right. I deal with men. I'm a men's rights advocate. I'm all for men of color in particular. I deal with veterans. I am a veteran, so of course I'm gonna deal with veterans. But I'm also a much more solution-focused, goal-oriented type therapist who, after you done worked through your traumas, after you done seen them, and you want to get your life on track, going towards the trajectory that you're trying to go to, I'm that person that help you chart that course.
Okay, we got the men, the women, the children, the vets, the case managers, all the services,
all
the relationship things. Like, we got it covered.
We got it all. You can find us on Grow.
Yeah.
You on Grow?
No.
He said he's hiring employees.
Yeah,
okay?
my bad. Yeah.
He's on boss status. He's trying to hire people.
Yeah.
If you a therapist and you looking for a job.
Hey, you don't want people all in your videos.
Right.
You know,
Come to
dancing
Death
and
Row.
shit.
Come to
Yeah,
Death
come
Row.
Them the Titans, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, tighten in the
Hopefully,
sunshine.
I'll be looking to hire a new therapist by August.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the goal.
Yeah.
Period.
Peer sport and all. And the good thing about us is we all work together. You know what I'm saying? So you can get in touch with her, that get in touch with me. You can get in touch with me. I can get in touch with them too. And so that's the beauty of what we do. And it's exclusively here for Louisville, but some of us is in Tennessee, Georgia, and Illinois.
Indiana.
And Indiana as well. So we cover the Midwest and the South too. There ain't nobody else doing it like how we doing it. You know what I'm saying? So that's the beauty of it. So you looking for a culturally competent therapist who know what they talking about. And you know it's a hard thing to find, right? Here you go right here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And we got every walk and flavor. And yeah, we do our thing, man.
What about young people or people who are saying, say I have a young black man and I'm looking for a black man therapist for them.
Black man therapist, black
I guess
man
what people will
therapist.
say. What do y'all tell them? Do you just say, here's my card? Or do you encourage them to open their minds to other people? Like, how do y'all address that if somebody says, you know?
Well, if that's what they're looking for, and I have the availability, I'll give them my business card, and it's a matter of just setting that up. But if I don't have it, and I don't know of anybody else who has any openings, then I would encourage them, man, to talk to somebody, because the most important thing, man, is you're getting to talk to somebody.
Absolutely.
You know, and there may come a time later where you may want to talk to somebody who is of color, but if you're just trying to get in and talk, then yeah, just start somewhere. But yeah.
So do you think it's a misstep for a parent to say, well, I have a young black male, he wants to talk to a black male? Is that appropriate?
I don't think it's a
I don't think
it's a
misstep.
misstep.
Okay.
But it only becomes an issue if you don't want, like, you're like, well, my son, I know he's in need of it, but I'm not gonna provide the support until I can find a black male. Like, that's where I think they misstep at.
Yeah.
But if it's like, if that's what you want, if that's what you feel like your son responds better to and comfortable with, then by all means pursue that, but don't like let that be the crutch too that like prevent you from looking at other alternatives if you can't find what you're looking for off top.
So you're saying that the therapy is most important, but it is okay for you to pick and choose the same way you would your doctor. If you were saying that if I would like a black female to be my doctor, then there's nothing wrong with you picking, a preference on who you feel like can relate to you and understand you the best. And I think that kind of makes a determination about how successful the therapy experience is for people, because you want someone who you feel like has the same values as you, that you can connect to on a different level. You feel like understands what you're going through. So certainly if that is a hindrance for your child, or if that is something that they really want, or even for yourself, it's worth it to seek out someone who you feel like you will really be able to make connections with, because it can be life-changing. It can be groundbreaking when you connect with a good therapist and they're able to really help you dig into your issues and get over the hump. So if you haven't found the right person yet, don't give up on therapy. Keep looking until you find that right person, the same way you would your primary care doctor. You wouldn't just say, okay, well, forget my health, it's just over with, I can't find who I want. No, you keep looking. You keep on fighting until you find the right person who is able to, like he said, in the meantime, you might, settle for, or you might go to whoever is available, but don't stop looking if that's what you feel like you or your child needs. It's worth the trouble.
It's like buying a pair of shoes. You gotta try them on to see them they fit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I tell people, you have to, just because you put on a shoe and it's a little crunch, your feet start to crunch at the top, you just don't stop wearing shoes altogether, right?
Exactly.
So you just have to find another pair of shoes that fit. So therapy and finding a therapist is just like that. I'm glad you touched on that, because a lot of people who are new to therapy, who go to therapy for the first time and may not have such the best experience, they end up shutting off from therapy altogether because of that experience, and we definitely don't want you to do that. That's the reason why I use the analogy that therapy is like I said, it's like trying on shoes. You got to find the one that fits.
Okay, we got a couple of questions online. Explain what couples therapy looks like. Do y'all do couples?
I do couples, but
Yeah, I do couples. I do couples and family. They asked about family therapy too. I do couples and family.
Family, but not couples.
I do couples.
It really depends on what the couple comes in presenting with and what are their issues, what are their goals. So you kind of have to establish what is the goal here. Sometimes a couple will come to therapy and one person's goal is to save the relationship and one person's goal is for assistance in breaking up. So you kind of have to figure out, okay, what are the needs of this couple, where they are in terms of staying together, breaking up, and figuring out how to establish a treatment plan of what do we want to accomplish here. Do we want to work on our issues? Do we want to co-parent? Do we want to stay together? Do we want to build a healthier relationship? So it really depends on what the couple comes in presenting with, and kind of the goals of what they want to accomplish within the sessions. And similar with families, you have to connect and join with each member of the family, but figuring out like, why are we here? Whose idea was it to come? Who kind of is sometimes there's a family identified patient, like this is the person who is the family troublemaker, or sometimes it is a general dysfunction within a family that you're trying to work on. So you kind of have to establish, get to the root of the problem and the goals that the family wants to accomplish in order to figure out how to approach the situation. But when you have multiple people in a therapy room, that dynamic is going to be different every single time based on who you have and what they're presenting with and what their goals are. Okay, so
Any more? The last one question.
yeah, so far.
Hey,
Y'all been talking talk.
Who said who? The who?
I said y'all been talking that talk.
We ain't been walking the wow. It's 2024. We making it happen. Yeah. It's, it's exciting things. You know what I'm saying? Be able to do what we do. I feel like it's a privilege to do what we do.
I know a lot of times when I do work with families, I feel like a lot of it boils down to just communication.
It all boils down to
It's
communication.
usually miscommunication or
Yeah.
no communication at all that's causing a lot of issues.
Mm-hmm.
Not for sure about couples, but I would venture to say that would be some of it. But definitely experience a lot of that working with families. In particular, when you're working with a family and you may see that the son is a little bit beside himself, and he talks to mom like it's his peer, right? And,
Screw you, mom.
yeah. Or it's like every time mom says something, they have to have something to come back with and talk over mom, right? And then mom kind of, instead of mom setting up that boundary, mom just kind of engages in that back and forth with him to the point to where, now mom's raised her voice and done cussed him out, and now he stormed off, went to his room, and now they're not talking anymore. So.
The question is, do you ever collab with another therapist for family treatment? I have collabed with another therapist. So in this particular situation, like one of the therapists was seeing the teen and I was seeing the parents. And so when we did a conjoint session, we had both therapists there. It's kind of like allies for both groups to kind of facilitate the conversation and to get it, have kind of like an even playing field. So sometimes in family therapy, one or more people can feel ganged up on, or you can start triangulating, like forming alliances. So for us, it kind of helped to balance out things because there's two parents, one kid, and so it can't be the parents' therapist, because then it becomes parents and therapists against kid. So in that situation, it was like we were kind of trying to balance the alliances so that everyone could feel heard and seen. So there's definitely times when a collab is good, especially if the therapist can communicate and get on the same page about what you want to accomplish in the session and try to work on common goals for both sides. It's like kind of like lawyers advocating for in family arbitration or something, that you want to have somebody represent both sides if everybody's not seeing the same therapist.
Yeah, definitely. It's almost like coalition building, and being able to arbitrate, some of the defects in communication. But like we were saying earlier, across the board is the biggest thing with communication is everybody has an assumption when it comes to communication. and they tend not to want to learn their partner or open themselves up to the different formats on how other people communicate. And so that's the main thing. That's where all the problems and issues come from. I see red, you see blue, and I'm right, you wrong.
At the end of the day, I tell it takes two to argue. It takes at least two to have a disagreement. So there's room. There's probably blame to go on both sides. The challenge is being accepting of your part in that.
The accountability aspect.
Being accepting of what you've done, but also being open to the other person's point. And I find that a lot of times to be the most challenging part. Like, because when you become, especially when I've seen families, it's almost like they want you to fix that one person. But it may be there's an underlying problem here. That person may be a part of the problem, but everybody's contributing to it one way or the other. And everybody has to be willing to accept their part in it.
Also, therapy is not a magical pill. We do not guarantee you that we're going to fix your problems. That's another misnomer that a lot of people have. The way I approach as a clinician when it comes to therapy is I am a fact finder, right? And so as a fact finder, what I do is I pull out the facts of what you present, and it allows you the opportunity to make a decision, either cognitive dissonance or you're going to make a plan that addresses the facts with it, a moving forward plan, if you will. So a lot of people have sometimes a misnomer of what therapy is supposed to look like and where you're supposed to get in reciprocity, right, for therapy.
Yeah, you definitely, I mean, it's not all on the therapist. I mean, it's definitely work on both ends. I mean, it's the same way if you go to a doctor, a medical doctor. I mean, they give you medicine, you got to take your medicine.
Yep.
And the same thing with a therapist. They might not give you actual physical medicine, but we give you medicine, and it's on you to take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good points.
Okay, we have another Facebook question. What ways do you recommend to encourage someone who's in therapy to stay in therapy, even when they feel like they are better, but clearly they are not? Or even encourage someone to start therapy. They're looking for ways to be an encouragement to someone to continue help or to get help. Like what are...
Therapy is an individual journey, okay? That's just like someone who suffers from substance abuse. You could tell somebody who do meth or some type of substance, you need to stop doing that because it's bad for you, it's going to kill you. But until that person decides that they've had enough, or until that person decides through the stages of change that what part of the stages of change that they're in, you can't. You know what I'm saying? You can suggest, hey, you can go see somebody. But it's up to them to actually take that step.
It's a very slippery slope, right?
Yeah.
It's like how to be encouraging without being demanding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, if you make a person feel like they're going to lose something from you and they go to therapy, but they're not doing it for themselves, they're doing it for you. So then if they're not doing it for themselves, then the likelihood of them getting better or actually sticking with therapy is pretty much non-existent. It's the same way with, I work with folks who are substance abuse or in recovery, and they'll tell me a lot of times, I've been through this program, programs like this several times because in the past I wasn't doing it for myself. I did it because my father told me I was getting cut off financially if I didn't go get help, or I was going to lose my kids, or I was going to lose my marriage. But this time around, I feel like I've been more successful because I'm actually doing it for me. And that would be the thing I would just keep in mind, man, when you want to encourage a friend to stop therapy, or encourage them to maintain therapy or continue it or start therapy, is that it starts with them. Really, as a friend, you can be supportive and encouraging of it, but just being mindful of the difference between encouraging versus trying to force them to do it.
Yeah. And also, you could also, lead by example. Sometimes when I'm talking to clients about their own healing journey and what they are going through, as they begin to heal and work through their issues, they are unconsciously giving other people the permission to do the same. So sometimes it's not necessarily that I'm beating you over the head with therapy, saying you need to go to therapy, or you need to talk to somebody, or you need to make sure you da-da-da-da. Sometimes I'm leading by that example. I'm just talking to them about how much it has helped me, or how much I have grown and changed, or kind of showing them things that I have learned in therapy, why it was valuable to me. So like they said, it's each person's individual journey, but sometimes it's more than one way around the bush. So you might just like I said, show them what you're learning in therapy, because as you're encouraging others, surely you're going yourself, or I mean,
yeah.
I mean, because how can you tell somebody else therapist for even if you never had therapy? If you
Right. Now, go on there and go on see somebody, talk to somebody. You know.
But and also just encouraging them in their healing journey. You might not say, well, you need to make sure you talking to somebody, or you but just letting them know that as they begin working on their issues or dealing with their issues, that you're proud of them, that you support them in whatever they want to do. Sometimes if you're pushing someone towards something, it sends them in the opposite direction. But if you are supporting someone through their healing and kind of just encouraging them on whatever they feel like they need to do to heal, then they can kind of make the decision for themselves, and you're just kind of there as a support.
Yeah.
Less is more.
Less is more. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to take one last question that we have on Facebook before we wrap up, and it is, do you all believe in sex therapy?
Yeah, depends.
Sex therapy.
That's out of my lane.
S-E-X.
So that's out of your lane?
What do you mean? I mean therapy, but like, for people who are like having a hard time getting an erection, having a hard time having a romantic
Porn
relationship.
addiction, what?
Yeah, that could be a pretty broad subject.
Yeah.
I will say, for me, talking to women, I feel like done what I consider sex therapy, which is talking to them about difficulties they're having in their relationships and in that department. Because some women have a difficult time having an orgasm, for example, or getting over sexual abuse that's happened in their past, and it starts to impact their relationship, and their spouse or their significant other doesn't understand the barriers that are happening in the bedroom. Why it can seem like a person is on board and then they pull back, or why why sometimes they are willing and sometimes they're not. So dealing with women and talking to women, many times I have had to talk them through difficulties with reaching the climax, for example. That's usually the biggest thing that I come into contact with. They feel like that they are not benefiting from sex as much as their partner or as men do, and many women are having a difficult time with orgasms, and men don't seem to be aware, or maybe
I don't know.
Well,
There's some men. I have dealt with some men within, like, from a sexual standpoint, who feel that that sometimes sex is weaponized. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, as far as
in a relationship. Okay.
Like, as far as like chore play, or using sex as a bargaining chip to gain some type of compliance or some type of manipulation, to the point that it's been done so much that when their partner is actually like, all right, I'm ready, they're no longer interested. They can't get an erection. They're just truly uninterested. And infidelity starts to come into play a lot of times during that aspect as well. So that's hence leads to the porn addiction that person may have, right? Because they're struggling between this crossroads of don't want to go out here and cheat, but their significant others not necessarily, working with them in regards to that request. So from a sex therapy aspect, I think that's...
It's just really, I think, from what I've seen, man, it's about being upfront and honest with people about what your needs are. I think what is it, DJ Envy, his wife said she faked the orgasm for like 15 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, you've been married to this man for this long and you didn't feel comfortable telling him that you weren't having an orgasm. Like, what's going on here? So it's like, to me, it's like being upfront with that person in terms of what you want and what you like. And then the other person having to be open to that, but also knowing that they're not open to it, then what is that going to look like for your relationship? Because don't force yourself to be in a relationship with somebody long term if they're not meeting those needs, because then the likelihood is you're going to step out, or you're going to be unhappy, or you'll cheat, or the relationship will end and it won't end on good terms. You know, if you feel comfortable telling your therapist certain things, but not your significant other, then we need to examine that. What is it about that to where we haven't felt comfortable? Because you should be able, if you've been in a long-term relationship with somebody, you should be able to tell them anything like, hey, man, you stink. You want to get that tightened up a little bit. Or, you know, I don't like the fact that, you know, now it's like, it feels like a chore now, like a responsibility as opposed to just something that I want to do. You got to be able to have those conversations. And that person has to be open to those conversations too. No doubt, but we got to be honest with each other.
I think that also, though, in terms of like the sexual dynamic of relationships and like how to get support and help when there's struggle in those areas, a lot of it is also cultural. Okay, there's a lot of societal things and a lot of outside things that come to play in these relationships as to why some things are not being talked about or why there's struggle in certain areas, and how to best address that in the context of a relationship. And I don't know how good of a job we do with addressing that stuff. Like, for example, it's cultural that, for example, if you're having sex with a person, that a man will stop the sex as soon as he has an orgasm, whether the woman has or not. And a lot of times they don't even consider, they may generally ask her like in passing, but just think if you were having sex with a woman and if she had an orgasm way before you and just stopped, like the sex was just over as soon as she did, and she didn't even consider whether or not you had one, didn't care at all. Like, that seems ridiculous when you think about it. Like, what? Why are we even doing this? Like, you gonna let me get to a certain point and then we're just done because you're done? But that happens to a woman most of the time. Actually, if you're doing statistically, a lot of women are not having like that. It's not even like 1-to-2 ratio. It's more probably like 5-to-1 in terms of how many times a woman has an orgasm versus a man. And that's just kind of a cultural thing. Women don't have an orgasm and then the sex is just over, and a man just be like, well, I guess that's it.
Well, I think
she done. So
I think from a
but that happens
biological,
to a woman.
well, for a physiological and biological, we're biologically different, right? So a woman can continue to climax, right, multiple times. A man, once he reaches a certain climax, then that takes all of what he had from him. So he has, it was, what is it called? A refractionary, it's called refractionary. So it's a refractionary time that the genitalia of a man has
the
to.
older you get, the longer that time.
Yeah, the longer that time, right. So I think more so with it, I think from a mental standpoint, when you have two individuals who are on a mentally the same page, it's much easier to reach that climax, opposed to when this person's kind of shut off from it and this person just thinking about it like it's a duty or something, just want to get this over with. So when you mentally get on the same page with
but then but that comes into play into why one person would think it was just a chore and not, because if you're having an orgasm 10 times and she's having one once, then it is a chore.
Having one 10.
No, she's not.
Well,
when you talk to women, they're not having 10 orgasms. They're not having one.
They may tell us.
They're not having one.
Yeah, right.
Most of the time, they're not having even one.
Right.
And if the situation was reversed, the problem would have been solved a long time ago. Even if we're talking about physiological, it would say, okay, if it was a man that needed to be stimulated for a certain amount of time or blah 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 in order to reach an orgasm, that will be part of sex every time. And as far as like women needing foreplay or needing to be warmed up in order to reach that, knowing that physiologically, but still ignoring that is cultural. Like the fact that y'all doing a little bit of this or that and then getting right into the sex, knowing that it's not likely that she's gonna reach a climax and you are.
Or at least being open to like,
that's
if
part
I reach
of the
mine before
patriarchy.
hers, then making sure she gets hers too. It doesn't mean
Exactly.
you gotta penetrate, but like look.
Right.
At it
What else you
like,
got on you?
Yeah, 'cause what would
Okay,
do?
you saying you gotta recuperate. You didn't bring nothing else. What?
Right.
I heard what the doctor said, but what did the dentist say?
Well, then that means we got to choose
He did.
who we engage
didn't
with
say.
sexually.
Yeah, I heard what you
because
the
that's
doctor
not.
said. The doctor said we gotta
I'm
wait
not
6
going to
weeks.
sit
What
here
did
and
the dentist say?
co-sign that it's culture.
What did the
That's
dentist
an
say?
Dentist said, "What's that
individualistic
mouth do?"
thing. That's an individualistic thing. Because I mean, have you had that problem?
What's that?
Yeah. Okay. So have you had that problem where you ever have had an issue to where
Out of touch. Y'all are out of touch.
we might
Then
be
I'm
out of
saying that
touch
you
about
don't-
that.
That I don't know because
You don't
I'm
make sure.
I'm
You're not
pretty
making sure
women-
every time that she's having an orgasm. No man is doing that. I haven't met any.
We can't say
I'll
that.
put it
That's
that way. I
generalist.
don't-
We can't broad
I would say
paintbrush
20.
everybody.
I would say 20-year-old Jose. Was
20-year-old Jose.
20s, 30s, not so much.
Much.
But that's not to say that women didn't lie to me either. To not hurt my ego. Like I'll just tell them I did.
Because a lot of times for women it's emotional, so
Yeah.
they want to connect with you. They want to be with you.
feel
They're
good.
not even expecting to necessarily have an
They
orgasm
want you to feel
because
good.
yeah, but that's how it turns into a chore because he knows that she's not, and he's not even checking for it. A lot of time, most of the time, like I said, when you have sex and you reach an orgasm, you're not making sure that she did too. You might ask her in passing, but you know she didn't because if she did, you wouldn't have to ask her.
Yeah,
So
that's true. Because you would know.
you're perpetuating it by making sure that you do and not making sure that she does, or by not providing an adequate amount of foreplay or whatever for her to get warmed up.
Yeah.
And so, of course, women are looking at it like a chore if you're gonna nut and she's not. It's a chore. Cause what did I get out of it? A wet ass.
That's it.
Well,
Okay, children. Well,
that's it on that one.
So in short, yeah, it does work. It just depends on how you use it. But
Yeah.
it can be beneficial.
Absolutely.
Court definitely believe in it though. In that same vein, I have coached women on one, how to have conversations with their partner about their needs and how to get those needs met. Two, how to change positions or do things that are gonna help them to reach an orgasm quicker, and then different ways to feel connected to their partner outside of sex. So because some of them say it's emotional if I don't feel connected with him throughout the day. So I have coached women in that way of how to increase your own, taking matters into your own hands, literally.
That's what I was gonna ask you. Have your experience
Taking
been with
matters.
those same women that like have a hard time having a climax, often don't really believe in self-pleasure or don't do it often enough? Because that's just, not as a therapist, but I know female friends that I've had that conversation with. A lot of times when they have a difficulty getting climax, it's like they don't touch themselves.
Sometimes, but I'm not running into that a lot.
Okay.
Most of the time, women know how to make themselves come. Their partner does not know how to make them, or is just not interested. They've gotten into a routine of sex where you are not considering whether or not the woman had an orgasm. And that's just how it has because we're in a patriarchal society. It's set up to cater to the men. So even though they feel like women have the power because they have the vagina, they're not even having an orgasm.
Sign on to that right
You
there.
ain't got to. You ain't got to.
That's the hell.
It's tight, but it's right.
No, it's subjective.
Because let me ask you this: how often do you make sure?
Every time, but I'm a different. So what we can't do is we can't generalize every man because every man is different. That's to say, like every woman falls short in a certain area. We can't say that. Everything is individualistic. It's subjective. So.
No, I just said the women that I've talked to.
Okay, so
I talked to a lot. I talked to a lot of women. I'm seeing recurring themes. These are just recurring themes. And I've been a woman for a while.
Okay,
so
all right.
I've come in.
So this is anecdotal. You know what I'm saying? And I respect that.
I think we're talking about our own personal experience, but are we open to the idea that there are probably out there who really don't give a
and I would agree with that.
But I wouldn't even say that the men don't care. I think so, especially when they're in marriages. I think not even just in marriages. If when they're in a relationship, I believe they care about their partner. I don't think that they're socialized to even think like that. To think I'm going to make sure every time that we have sex that she enjoys it as much as I did, or she at least reaches an orgasm at a percentage of what I am. Yeah. Men are not even socialized to think like it, the same way that men are not socialized to think about their wedding and their, you know, themselves, like to play house. I'm just talking about socialized. I don't think it's that men don't care about women or don't care about what they need. I think that's why I said it's cultural and societal, because we are not even teaching our men that that's important. And then they're wondering why their partners become disillusioned with the sex in the relationship, because they're not getting the same thing out of it. They're not getting the same thing out of it. If you knew that you were going to start sex but not have an orgasm, you would start to get pissed off after a while. And I had to clean up everything and take care of these kids and blah blah blah. You want to say, boy, F you.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Y'all not reaching climaxes.
That's what I be saying to them.
But you picked them though.
Not,
you picked
what?
them though. You picked your husband.
What they decided was that what the value that I saw in this person was more important to me than a climax.
Okay then.
So it's not that they don't love the person and the person don't love them.
Okay.
This is an issue within the relationship that has to be resolved. The same way if a guy is used to lying to all of these women and now he falls in love for real and he wants to be a good man to her, he still don't know how. I ain't used to that, but that's what I want to do. I want to love her right. But how do I do that?
After lying all this time and stuff.
I've been lying when I'm trying to change for you.
For you.
I'll change for you.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I you know what? But one of the things I will say, especially when it comes to a marriage, a lot of, since you said socialize, I believe everybody has a role. I'm one of those ones who believe in roles, and that's the reason why you have the yin and the yang to make things work, right? So as a man is socialized, provide, protect. They give purpose, guidance, direction, and motivation, right? So in the course of doing that, he has to focus on that. Sex is a thing, right? He gives up a lot when he gives up marriage. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna cut all these females off, and you just gonna be the one, you the it, you, right? So with that, the thing, he has to go fight the dragons, right? He has to live in somewhat of a rational world, because the decisions in which he makes has consequences, very catastrophic consequences. Because if you don't pay the bills, if the lights get cut off, if your car get repossessed, if there ain't food in there, if your boy ain't going to school and the tuition ain't paid, then it's gonna be smoke in the city. Is it not gonna be smoke in the city? It's gonna be smoke in the city. And you talking about somebody dried in the Sahara Desert because it's smoke in the city, you're gonna be even more dry. So a lot of times what we don't keep in mind is that, you know, from the male aspect, like men got a lot of stuff that they gotta shoulder the brunt of the burden on, right? You know what I'm saying? And sometimes it just depends on how you come to the man. So if you're stressed and you come to him stressed and both of y'all stressed, then that means y'all communication is going to be a little bit frigid, right? You're going to be like, why the fuck you didn't take out I didn't cuss in front of the kids, but why you didn't take out the trash? Why come you didn't go, you said you was going to pay the light bill 2 weeks ago, and here we go, we got the lights off, and then y'all about to try to have intimacy. He going to do it because guess what? As a man, he just going to do it, but he don't, at that point, he's not really concerned of whether you catch an orgasm or not, because he probably in his mind cussing you out. You know what I'm saying? And so that's where that friction comes from, you know. So I think a little empathy from both sides to each other may be able to foster the foundation necessary for you to be intimately in tune with each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's why the couples therapy is important.
Absolutely.
And that may include some counseling in the area of sex. So it might not be sex therapy specifically, but that might be a big theme if it is an area of contention within a relationship. Because he might not be understanding you, you might not be understanding him, and then boom, y'all butting heads. But y'all care about each other. It's just a gap between. Okay, well, you know, we done been on here for a while, so y'all got any parting words, final thoughts that y'all want to share before we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, we are glad that y'all came and joined us at Clinicians Out After Dark, you know what I'm saying, with our new series or whatever the case may be. This is going to be a great thing. We see some great things coming for 2024. Make sure you tune in, share it with your friends, like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, Facebook. Check out Erin's new page. It may come to you because
Right.
she had a
I
little
was
technical
scared.
difficulties.
I was
Right,
scared.
right. You can find me on Instagram at Mr. 3D Cuts. Be nasty. You know what I'm saying? _
Never
Don't worry
ready
about
for
it.
the be nasty.
Yeah, to be nasty.
Never ready
You know what
for
I'm
it.
saying?
Mine's the same, man. It's Jose Ricardo. My full name. I'll be changing it soon, but not as right now. I haven't really had a chance to. But you can get a hold of me on there.
What was I getting ready to say? See, I'm just old. I was gonna say something, but I don't know what it was.
What was your, where they can find you at? Where they can find you at?
Here. Under construction.
Under construction.
Don't get me on a soapbox about Facebook.
Go on, talk about it, Facebook.
No, we have been on her
We
too
got
long.
about 4 minutes. Go on, talk about it real quick.
Facebook don't care. They don't care about black people.
Okay.
What Kanye said? Facebook don't care about black people.
Right. Don't cancel us.
Okay, so I don't know. I was gonna say, if you are watching this live later and you still have comments or questions that you want to add, we will still check them and we can add those on for next time as topics or whatever to discuss. So if you still want to leave a comment or get something addressed, or you have something burning in your heart that you want to see us discuss, then you can still comment below even after the live has ended on the video, and we will address those comments for next time. So if you got some burning things that you want to see us talk about or whatever, then comment below and we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, chop it up.
Okay, well, thank y'all for joining us.
Yeah,
Thanks
man.
later for all the people who watch after we post this, since we didn't even tell nobody we was coming. It was
Sure
touch and go.
did,
It was
sure did.
It was first touch and then it was go. So it was
Yeah,
touch
I
and
mean.
go for a minute, but we here.
We here.
Started from the bottom. Okay, so y'all got parting words?
That was the part
Okay.
word.
All right, well, we'll see y'all next time. Do we got a next time date?
Hey, stay tuned
Stay
to all the
tuned.
channels. You'll get the dates as long as
Stay tuned for
with
the
the
date.
snippets and everything else. You'll get the dates. Just
We
stay
we
tuned.
gonna work on a schedule. We got entrepreneurs here, so the schedule can be a little tricky, but we do want to work on a consistent schedule. We gonna come to y'all with something. We just still working.
I
out
gotta
the
get it with
kinks.
my mans in them. I gotta
We
get it with
working
my
out the
mans
kinks,
in them.
but we here, okay?
Yeah, we here.
Ricky
We
done
here.
bought a mic, so it's in stone
Oh
now.
man,
'Cause
yeah,
done
he bought a mic. You know what I'm
So-
saying? Pretty Ricky, what they call him. You know what I'm talking about? Hey, his son look just like him too, but you know what I'm talking about?
Put the camera on.
Put the camera on him.
I'm
Yeah. Go on, come over here real quick. Come over here real
Come
quick.
on.
Hey, throw a shout out. Tell her where you coming
Give it
from.
to her.
Yeah. Young Ricky in the building. Yeah, me.
All right, y'all. We out of here. We see y'all next time.
All right.